everyone and welcome to the Kiki London YouTube channel. My name's Amanda and in today's video we're going to be doing a set of Pride nails. Here in the UK, the month of June is when we celebrate Pride, which is of course an absolutely amazing thing to celebrate. We are also running a Pride collab over on the Kiki London Instagram page, so do check that out if you'd like to get involved, and are creating some Pride nails using Kiki London products. So for my set of nails, I'm going to be coming in first of all and applying a layer of the rubber base coats. Now I've chose to go for 01 and 02. I'm using 02 on what would be the little finger and the thumb. And then I'm going to be using 01 on the three middle fingers because those nails are going to be white in this set of nails. So having a milky white base is going to really help with our white gel polish. It meant I only had to apply one layer of white gel polish rather than two. So if you aren't already familiar with the Kiki London rubber base coats, the coloured ones especially, I will leave a link to the video I have on them which swatches all of the rubber base colours and talks a little bit more in depth about them. I especially love 01 because it's a lovely milky white base, and like I said, if you're popping something like a white gel polish over the top, sometimes in certain situations you can get away with only using one coat. The 01 rubber base as well does also make a lot of your brighter colours pop as well. So if you was coming in and doing a, say for example, a neon set, having a white base coat down underneath really helps make those neons pop. On the other two nails, I'm just wanted like a hint of a pink background. You're not really going to see any of this, to be honest. So I probably could have worked with 01, but at the start of this design, I wasn't 100% sure what I was going to do on these two nails. But as you can see, it's such a gorgeous pink. So once we've applied that base coat to all of the nails, I'm going to pop these in to cure for 30 seconds. And then for my white nails, I'm going to be using French white today. Usually you probably know if you watch the Kiki London channel that usually I use coconut. French white is a little bit softer, so I wanted a more softer background today because I really wanted all the colours to be what pulled most of the attention to the set. So I went for an ever so slightly softer white background. And then once we've done, I did one nail on camera and I did the other two white nails off camera, just painting on a thin layer of that white gel polish. And as I said, we only needed one coat of that. Now on to the other two nails, I'm going to be using Ice Queen, which is a gorgeous sparkly silver. As you can see, it's very, very full coverage. You're not going to see really any of that pink underneath. It just adjusts the sparkle ever so slightly. Originally, I was going to do something different on these two nails, so that was why I did them pink. But as you can see, I decided to come in and do Ice Queen on both of those nails. So now we've got our base gel polish, our base and our layer of gel polish down. I'm going to pop them into cure. And whilst they're curing, I thought I'd show you the colours that we're going to be using for our Pride set. So we have ruby red for the red, orange soda for our orange. For the yellow, I went for lemon tart. And then for the for the green, I chose Ivy Forest. I would have liked to have used a slightly lighter green, but I didn't have anything in my collection that would have suited. Then we've gone for Neon Prince for the blue. And lastly, for the purple, I went for Black Cherry. I really, really love Black Cherry, and it's not a colour that I use too often. So it was definitely fun to do a set of nails where I've used a few colours that I don't normally reach for. And then I'm going to also use my Kiki London stripe liner brush. As you can see, I've popped all of those colours down on my Kiki London nail art palette, so we're all ready to jump into the nail art. So first of all, on the first nail, I was quite inspired by the Pride flag, but instead of painting on a flag, I decided we'd go for a bit of a tie-dye effect. I thought this would be fun because when you think of a flag, it waves usually. It's not usually just sitting still. If there's a gentle breeze, your flag's going to be blowing. And I felt as though the tie-dye effect kind of represented that with a flag, and it was also a really fun design to do. I haven't done too many tie-dye designs, so it was a little bit tricky when it comes to doing the actual tie-dye part, but it's very, very fun, and I think it's a really fun looking design. So to start off with, as you can see, I'm just painting on my colours in the same order of the Pride flag, and I'm keeping these wet so we're not flash curing or anything like that. All I'm doing when I go off camera here is just cleaning off my brush with each colour. And I'm cleaning off my brush using one of the Kiki London alcohol pads. I have it just out of shot, and all I'm doing is wiping my brush on it when needed, just to clean off that brush before we go on to our next colour, because you don't want to contaminate each colour with the previous colour that you've been working with. Even though we are going to be pulling these colours together, we still want each one to look quite crisp and neat. So it's always good to clean off your brush. Here I made a little bit mistake. My line went a little bit messy. So I've got my angled nail art brush and a little bit of alcohol, and I'm just cleaning that up a little bit. Even though we are going to be tie-dyeing through it, you still want your lines to look as neat as possible. You just haven't got to stress about them being super crisp, but you do want them to still be neat because certain sections of the tie-dye you're going to see those lines. So do try to get it as neat as possible, which I know can be tricky when you're not flash curing or curing each colour, but just take your time. And especially with using the stripe liner brush, it makes this quite easy. I loaded up my brush with a fair amount of product because obviously we're not going to be able to do a second coat. So that kind of just helped make the gel polish flow nicely across the nail. And I'm letting the brush do a lot of that work for me as well. And another thing to note, where we've popped that white colour down underneath, we wouldn't need a second coat for designs like this anyway, because the white base is going to really make those colours pop. I'm going to give my brush a really good clean before doing this step because you don't want to be dragging any colour that you don't want through the nail. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going in opposite directions each time and then giving my brush a little clean off now and then so we don't muddy and pull those colours together too much. And as you can see, it easily creates that tie-dye effect. When I say easily, I mean it's not hard to do once you get into the flow of it. The main thing you've got to try and do is keep your brush quite straight, and I feel as though it looks more appealing to the eye if you go in opposite directions for each line. And I just loved the effect that it gave off. This was my favourite nail in this set, and it was just really, really fun to do as well. So this is what the nail looks like once we've finished that tie-dye effect. Now I wanted to clean up the edge here on the purple because I'm going to come in with some silver. If you wasn't coming in with the silver glitter, then you could kind of leave this with the pulled edges because I think that looks quite cute. But I wanted to clean it off so that we can come in with a line of silver. So using that Ice Queen again, I'm just going to come in and just go do a nice straight line across the nail again using that stripe liner brush because I wanted to tie in a little bit more glitter into this set because we have got glitter on the thumb and little finger as well. And then once we have finished this, I'm going to pop this now in to cure for 30 seconds. If you feel as though you've applied your gel polish quite thick or it's quite lumpy or uneven, you can cure for 60 seconds. I didn't find I'd applied mine too thick in this instance, so I just cured for 30 seconds. Moving on to the second now, I wanted to spell out the word love because part of Pride is all about being able to love yourself for who you are and love who you want to love. So I decided I would start off with the purple, then go to the blue, and then just throughout the step, basically doing each letter of the love a different color. Now this would only mean I used 4 of those Pride colors that we'd selected, so I then come in with some water decals to tie in the other 2 colors as well, as again on this now I wanted to make sure that we were using all 6 colors from the Pride flag. Now what I did here is when I did each letter I flash cured it. So I did the L, flash cured it. That's why you can see my hand going out of shot. Now when I say I'm flash curing, I'm using the Kiki London Deluxe 96 watt LED lamp, which has a 10-second cure feature. This just flash cures your gel polish, so it means it freezes it into place. So if I make a mistake on one of the letters, I'm able to wipe it off without wiping off the previous letter. But then once you have finished all your letters, you do need to give it a full 30-second cure. Now that we've cured that, we're going to go on to add in those water decals I mentioned. So I've cut out the red and the orange heart, as those were the 2 colors that were missing from this nail. And as you can see, those particular water decals really suit Pride nails as they have all of the colors that you need to create a Pride set. And then of course for my water decals, I'm also going to be using my silicone tool. Now for these decals, I started off applying them what I call the traditional method for applying water decals. So I've cut them out, soaked them in some room temperature water for around 10 seconds. Then using some tweezers, your image will slide easily off the backing paper. And then you're able to place it down on the nail, position it where you want it to go. And I like to just use my silicone tool to get it into place and rub out any creases. On to the next now, we're going to be using those hearts again, but this time I'm going to start off by using the stamper method. I personally find both these methods really, really easy. However, in certain circumstances, one is better than the other. So I start off applying these water decals with the stamper method. Now with the stamper method, I find you do still need to have the tacky layer from your gel polish there for it to work. So for example, if you've wiped off your tacky layer, or if you're working over the top of a filed and buffed builder gel now, I personally don't find that the stamper method works, so I like to use the traditional method. Here I'm using the stamper method and we're working over that tacky layer from the French white, and they're stamping on perfectly. So as you'll see, I place my image down, I dampen the back of the backing paper with the water using my round nail art brush, and then I just line up where I want that image, stamp down, roll my stamper and pull off, and then I just smooth out any creases that there might be with the silicone tool. But what happens when you're applying several decals over the same nail using this, you kind of remove that tacky layer. So here, I think it's here, it's either this one or the next one. Yeah, I think it's this one. So when I go to stamp it, the image is staying stuck down on my stamper because there's no tacky layer left on that now where that we've been stamping over it. Just you've worn off that tacky inhibition layer, it's transferred onto your stamper basically. So then this is where I would find it easier to use the traditional method of stamping. Of course, if you were just popping, for example, the 3 decals down, it was working fine. So what I did is I just used my tweezers to pick off that water decal, and I did still try and do one more using the stamper method as I thought it might work, but it ended up not. It ended up turning into a little bit of a tricky situation, but I left it in because you always come across these situations when you're doing nail art. Something doesn't always go to plan and you have to fix it. So here you can see I ended up with both of those water decals stuck to my stamper rather than the nail. So what I did was I wiped over the nail with a bit of an alcohol pad just to make sure I had a nice clean surface, and then I'm picking these off very carefully off my stamper using my tweezers. They are still moist enough from the water that they will stick down in place, but if you felt as though they weren't, you could just dip them back into the water. And then for the last heart, I decided to go back to using the traditional method. So like I said, I kept it in the video rather than cutting it out, because sometimes when you're doing a nail art set, things go wrong and you've got to correct them, and that was exactly what happened here. So I thought I would show you how I corrected it. Now I really loved this design. I thought it looked super cute. The colors worked perfectly to represent pride, and then the hearts of course represent pride as well. So I really loved how this nail turned out. So that was all of our white nails finished. We're now going to move on to what would be our thumb and little finger, where we have those Ice Queen bases. Now I'm really loving swirls coming down the nail at the moment, so I wanted to incorporate that into the set. So I'm coming in first of all with the ruby red, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use ruby red, orange soda and lemon tart on this now, so the first 3 colors of the pride flag, and then we're going to use the ivy forest, neon prince and black cherry on the little finger. So what I've done is I've painted on my swirl with the ruby red. I wanted them to be a little bit thicker, so that's why I start off at the top of the nail. You'll see I did it here with orange soda as well. I got my thickness where I wanted it to be first, and then I'm working on coming down the nail and following that swirl that we created on the first line, sorry. Then what I'm going to do is after I finish each colour, I'm going to flash cure it for 10 seconds. This, just like I said before, it means if I make a mistake now with the yellow, I'd be able to wipe off the yellow without wiping off the orange, and the same goes for when we did the red. Flash curing is an absolute lifesaver when you are doing any kind of hand painted nail art. So it is one of my favourite features on the Kiki London Deluxe lamp. If you are using a different lamp, of course, you can still flash cure. You just wouldn't need to pop your hand in for the whole 30 seconds function on your light. But it is really handy that the Kiki London lamp has that 10-second flash cure setting, because then you know when the 10 seconds are up. Once we had finished all 3 colours, I'm going to pop it in for a full 30-second cure, because of course flash curing doesn't fully cure your product. So even if you are flash curing, I would always recommend popping in for a full 30-second cure once you have finished your design. On to the little finger, we're doing pretty much exactly the same, but using those 3 colours. Again, I wanted to keep those lines quite thick. I wanted them to be really bold and stand out against that glittery base. The stripe liner brush makes stripes like this or swirls like this absolutely effortless. I like to load up my brush with a generous amount of product, like I said, creating my thickness to begin with, and then just allowing that brush to flow down the nail and create the swell that we're going for. I'm letting the brush do a lot of the work for me. You can see here how I'm holding the nail tip means that I can balance my little finger onto my thumb. This gives you a little bit of support. So same if you're working on a client and you're holding their finger with one hand, use your little finger as an anchor to balance your hand. Whether you pop your little finger on your thumb or your client's hand, it gives you a little bit of an anchor and just gives you that little bit of pressure to press down on so you're not as shaky. Now, once we have finished the black cherry, we are finished this design. So I will pop that in again for its full 30-second cure. And I really loved how it looked, splitting up the colours from the pride flag and popping them on the two nails like this. It kind of framed the set and brought everything together. So this is what the nails looked like once we had finished all of the nail art. They're really, really fun and really, really funky. I absolutely loved doing them. Of course, it's now time to come in and top coat. I chose today to top coat with my no wipe top coat because we're just working on display tips. If I was doing this set on myself, or if you was working on a client, I think I would recommend using the rubber top coat because we've got the decals on, and the rubber top coat does add an extra layer of security basically over things like your water decals. But I'm just going to do a thin layer of this and apply it to all of the nails. And then I'll pop these in to cure for a final 30 seconds, and that is the design finished. So if you are celebrating Pride Month, happy Pride to you. If you are not, I just hope that you will be supporting the Pride community. And also, like I said at the start, don't forget to check out the Pride collab over on the Kiki London Instagram page. As always, I will leave all of the products I've used in the description box below, so do check that out. If you did enjoy today's video, it would be really, really great if you could give the video a thumbs up and leave us a comment below. Thank you all so much for all your comments on the previous videos. Of course, if you're watching and you're not already subscribed, don't forget to hit that subscription button. I upload videos here every single Friday. I hope you all have an amazing weekend. Lots of love. Take care. Bye bye.